Hi, I'm Kyle Kramer. I'm the Executive Director of the Passionist Earth and Spirit Center. And I'm making this little video because I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to join everyone for the chapter meeting this summer in California. And I'm going to miss seeing a lot of you. But I wanted to have a chance to make sure that those of you who aren't familiar with the work of the Earth and Spirit Center know a little bit about it. We're trying hard to carry forth the mission of the province, and I know that y'all are making a lot of important decisions for the future of the province. So we hope we can be a resource. So what I'd like to do in the next few minutes is talk a little bit about the history and the mission of the Earth and Spirit Center and its relationship as an organization with the Passionists. Talk a little bit more in depth about its mission and some of our key projects, maybe some of our challenges. You heard a phone ring in the background, and I'm afraid we're not going to edit that out, because what you're getting here is a slice of everyday life in the Earth and Spirit Center. So forgive some of the audio interruptions and my own stumbling, but that is real life here at the Earth and Spirit Center. So the Earth and Spirit Center was founded in 2005 by Father Joe Mitchell, CP, a Passionist priest, a member of the Holy Cross Province and the Sacred Heart Retreat here in Louisville. And it was founded in connection with another Passionist priest, Thomas Berry, who is one of those Passionists who's the prophet less well known in his hometown than perhaps elsewhere across the globe. Thomas Berry, who died in 2009, was a historian of religions at Fordham University, among other tasks and claims to fame. And Thomas Berry he was one of the first to have this amazing integral vision of a synthesis between the best of religious thinking and the best of scientific discovery. And Thomas Berry is one of the early folks who recognized not only that we're facing ecological challenges and a crisis, if you will, but that there is not just that there are roots to that crisis that are also spiritual, and ramifications to those challenges that are also spiritual. That in essence, science and religion need each other. Spirituality and a life of kind of material engagement in the natural world, they require each other. And so Thomas Berry wrote books along those lines, and the connection I'm making here is that Father Joe Mitchell founded this center to carry on the work and the ideas of Thomas Berry, to find ways to wed full engagement with the insights of science and the needs of our planet with spiritual practice and religious commitment. So we started as an organization under the wing of the Passionist Monastery. I'm sitting here upstairs, and when I gesture out, I'm actually pointing over across the lawn to the Passionist Monastery. So we started off as this fledgling little organization in the old red brick barn behind the monastery. And those of you who have been to Louisville know that it's this beautiful 27-acre campus with a gorgeous monastery on the front end, kind of antebellum features to that, and then a big old red brick barn behind that once upon a time housed cows and chickens and tractors and a little bit later rowdy youth from St. Agnes Parish, which is also connected. But we're in this renovated spirituality center, this renovated barn, which is turned into kind of a conference room and spirituality center. And Joe Mitchell, once upon a time, just started offering basic meditation classes and classes about cosmology, which he had learned about in some further graduate study. And things kind of took off from there and snowballed, I guess is one way to put it. Over the years, we grew as an organization. In 2010, we became separately incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit. So we now have a separate board of directors and obviously separate finances and all of these other organizational aspects from the monastery, but we are continuing to be deeply supported by the Passionist monastery, and of course by the presence of a Passionist priest on staff as our founder and president and lead teacher. And we continue to have the head of the Passionist monastery, the superior, serve as an ex officio board member. So that was 2005. And fast forward now almost 15 years, and we have become the largest provider of mindfulness meditation instruction in the entire central U.S., as far as we can tell. We've trained thousands and thousands of students in mindfulness meditation, and we offer programming in three main areas. Mindfulness and spirituality is one, social justice and compassion is the second, and what we variously call earth literacy or earth care or environment kind of more generally is the third. And let me talk a little bit about why we landed on those three aspects and how those kind of interplay with each other to form this core of our mission. I mentioned earlier that Thomas Berry saw the integral connections between a life of spiritual and religious commitments and a life fully engaged with the insights of science and the work needed to repair a hurting world, etc. Our basic understanding is this, that, as Father Joe often says, happiness is an inside job. Happiness doesn't just depend on all your external circumstances being lined up correctly and everything working out fine for you. Happiness is generated from within. It has spiritual roots rather than roots in external circumstances. Well, we think that a flourishing world also has internal roots, also is the fruit of deep spiritual practice. And so where we start and end in our mission is with the necessity of each one of us to attend to our inner life. And because we are founded with strong commitments to be open and inclusive toward all spiritual seekers, we have become interfaith in our approach, which means while we do have offerings and workshops that are much more specifically Christian and Catholic, like a centering prayer workshop and things like this, we're also asking ourselves, what are the spiritual tools that are more universal, that mesh well within a Catholic Christian set of commitments, but could also be applicable for someone who comes from the Hindu tradition or has no religious background whatsoever. And one of those solutions in today's world is something called mindfulness, which has deep roots in the Buddhist, Hindu, and Christian contemplative traditions, but has increasingly been adopted by a broader kind of cultural awareness, such that you see it in boardrooms and on the cover of Time magazine and things like this. So we've adopted mindfulness as one of the core ways we invite folks into contemplative spiritual practice. And anyone who's spent any time in silence, whether through a mindfulness practice or centering prayer or any number of other ways to access the inner life, anyone who's done that knows there's a lot of crazy stuff going on inside, and knows that a lot of the crazy stuff going on outside is the fruit of this inner turmoil. So what we have tried to do is help people understand that we're not going to have a flourishing world until each one of us does our part to look within and to cultivate some degree of peace and equanimity, trusting that will radiate out first into our relationships with each other, in our work environments, in our family environments, in our civic spaces, such that we can build and sustain healthy communities. And that those healthy relationships actually radiate out even beyond our human-to-human relationships to our relationship with the natural world itself, which, let's face it, is not just something out there. We are part and parcel of God's creation. We are the natural world in human form, in kind of advanced technological form and whatever else. And essentially what we are doing to what seems like the world out there, we are doing to ourselves. And what we are doing to ourselves, we're not just doing materially, but we're doing spiritually as well. And so any damage that we inflict upon the good green world is ultimately damage that we do to ourselves spiritually and materially. So our mission is to hold up these three beautiful interlocked pieces of interior spiritual practice, of healthy, just human relationships in community, and a thriving, flourishing relationship with the natural world itself. That is the only way we will have a healed and healing and flourishing world, which I would say is the kingdom of God. I want to take a moment to dig and dwell a little more deeply with the environmental aspect of our mission, the earth care, earth literacy, because I think there's a really powerful and profound connection here, especially with the work that we're doing at the Earth and Spirit Center and with the priorities and commitments of the Passionists. And that connection is Pope Francis and his 2015 encyclical Laudato Si, which everyone calls his environmental encyclical, but it's much more than that. It is an integral encyclical that comprises these three elements of the Earth and Spirit Center mission that I've just described: the commitments to contemplative spiritual practice, to healthy and just human relationships and communities, and to the natural world. Those are the three priorities that Pope Francis holds up in that encyclical. And so in some sense, we've joked around here that when that encyclical came out, we were an organization that was just ready and waiting and ripe for it. And so we have taken it and tried to embody that in deep ways in our programming. I myself, as the executive director, I also wear the hat of a Catholic climate ambassador, and in that capacity for the Catholic Climate Covenant, I've gone around the country and the region speaking about Laudato Si, and we have tried very hard to embody its principles. And one of the reasons we're doing that is not just because it serves our local population, but also because we feel that we can offer the province a deep resource of practical experience of what it means to live into Laudato Si deeply, and to teach it and to share it, to evangelize it amongst our constituents. Because we feel that this is a calling not just for us as one small element of the province, but as Pope Francis writes in the encyclical, I write this to all people of goodwill, basically to the entire planet. So it implicates all of us, the invitations that he's giving us. And so I would like to share with all of you at Chapter that Laudato Si offers this tremendous set of opportunities for us as Passionists, vow and laid, to live more deeply into our charism and into our commitments. And we're really fortunate to have resources here at the Earth and Spirit Center that we can bring to bear for the rest of the province. For example, David Horvath is the head of what we at one time called our JPIC desk, the Justice, Peace, and Integrity of Creation desk or office for North America. That's now been renamed the Passionist Solidarity Network. But David has done phenomenal work around Laudato Si and offered a tremendous set of resources through a monthly newsletter, through a website, and other means. And he'll be there at Chapter with you. As I record this, we're about 2 weeks or so away. But I encourage you to pull David aside at the Chapter meeting ask him about Laudato Si and how the Solidarity Network, and he particularly, can be of service to the rest of the retreat houses and other institutions within the province, so that all of us can live more fully into Laudato Si. I want to wrap up here by saying just a few words about some key projects that we're doing here at the Earth and Spirit Center that I think just deeply embody and carry forth the Passionist charism. One of them is called Mindfulness Mentors. You know, a huge part of the Passionist charism is being present and of service to those who suffer and those who are on the margins. And what we've come to realize here at the center is that all of the wonderful physiological and psychological, spiritual benefits that, for example, mindfulness meditation can provide are generally out of reach for folks who are lower income or live in a more rundown part of Louisville, which is a very segregated city. So we've committed a tremendous amount of resources to train up very qualified volunteers, and we invest staff resources to provide free mindfulness instruction for over now 1,000 pro bono clients and counting, in partnership with about 12 local social service organizations. So we're trying to recognize the Passionist call to minister to and reach out to those who are on the margins, and responding to the signs of the times, to use Vatican II language. We're doing that by providing the kinds of spiritual tools that are more universal and that do provide benefits that we've been able to see with those who are in our regular classes here in our building. We're able to take those out. We also, in addition to the mindfulness mentors, we have deep and strong justice commitments, especially around racial justice here in Louisville. So we're reaching out across color lines, across socioeconomic lines. We hired Reverend Joe Phelps, a retired local pastor, to do justice work for us. Earlier I mentioned David Horvath and his work with JPIC and the Passionist Solidarity Network. He also has a phenomenal new newsletter called Justice Minute, is that right? Justice Minute. I read it and I edit it and I forgot the title, but that is a quick go-to for Passionists who would want to tune into issues of justice, both locally here in Louisville, but generally, and whether that's social justice or environmental justice. Speak of environmental and social justice, for that matter, we facilitate a number of what we call environmental justice tours, bus tours, every year, where we help people recognize that social justice is often coupled with environmental, social injustice is coupled with environmental injustice. And it's no coincidence that the most polluting factories or power plants or whatever just happen to be located in places where there are high populations of folks who are of lower income or who are not Caucasian. And so we are highlighting those things to hold up these Passionist values of solidarity with those who suffer on the margins and with the suffering earth itself. So this is just a smattering of the kind of projects that we do that have both local and national and even international impact, and that, in my judgment, are carrying forward the Passionist charism. And we do look different than a retreat center at Sierra Madre or Detroit or Houston. We'll be the first to admit that. Our clientele looks different and our programming looks different, but our hearts are the same. We have the same abiding commitments as part of the Passionist family to reach out to those who suffer and to be creative in the ways that we do that, responding to the signs of the time through prayer and contemplation. So I'm glad to take these 15 minutes or so to be with you virtually, and I wish you all the very best at the chapter. My prayers are with you. I hope to see many of you soon, and I invite you to reach out to share your good work with us, to avail yourselves of the resources that we can offer the province, and with all of this, Godspeed.